Trying to figure out how to use this new fancy mount that I've got. Got me a fancy little mount that, boy, I don't know how to open it. I'm about to break it. I got a lot of drive time coming up here in just a moment, so what I want to do is go live, but oh, there we go. I'm just not that technically savvy, I guess. All right. All right, that's a fancy little machine there. All right, so welcome back to Fear Not Farm. If you clicked on this because you seen the thumbnail, I'm not going to be completely doom and gloom about it. I know if you know what that thumbnail means, that you know that there's some pretty serious stuff coming up here in the next few years. And let me get on this here turnpike so pay attention. Woo! Just driving fast today. Alright. So, if you've seen that thumbnail, Mr. Hardneck Farms. Hello. First time I've seen you tuning in. Hope you guys are doing well, some fellow Okies. So, anyways, I was going to talk about Agenda 2030 and what I see it as, and what I think everybody sees it as, is it's going to be a massive wealth transfer to the ultra rich. Basically, they don't want you owning any. I mean, I wish I had some sunglasses. Driving right into this east sun. But anyways, they don't want you to have any wealth. They don't want you to own property. They don't want you to own anything. There's places where they literally cities planned where you're going to lease even your clothing. So basically, they're going to create such a financial hardship here in the next few years that you're going to have no choice but to surrender your property, or so they think. That's what they think they're going to do. So what I have to say about that is, while the haymaking is good, make hay. But as soon as they say peace and safety, sudden destruction come upon them. You'll read that in the Bible. Just Google, where's that in the Bible? Where they say peace and safety, sudden destruction come upon them. So, I hope people do. That's what I'm going to get, is in any position to stand up to anybody. I know we've got our bullocks and our weapons. I know we've got to stand up to resist what is coming here in the next few years. The reason nobody is prepared is because all of us families, most often, you're going to see this 90% of the time, families are scattered amongst, even if they are in the same state, they're more than an hour from each other. Okay, guys, when we're talking about being prepared, we could try to do all we can. We could try to store up all the food, all this stuff that you want to, but that's not what's going to get you through a hardship like what is coming. Because there's going to be millions of people looking for what you've got. And they're going to come ready to take it. Do you have the wherewithal to fight off barrage after barrage of people trying to take what you've got? If it comes to that, do you have that wherewithal? You probably don't have it as a single family. But if every able-bodied person that you're close to was within within traveling distance of each other, you could probably collectively fight for what you got. See, the strength in all this, the endurance to withstand what they're going to try to do to us, you're going to have a network of people. And if you don't have the family, you better have the neighbors. Do you have the neighbors? I can only think of maybe one person that I can count on right in my general neighborhood that, or, you know, if you count within what I would say walking distance, you know, like in times where you may not be able to travel by vehicle and whatnot, maybe two people. So do you have the family? Do you have the friends of people strategically put together in order to resist what is coming? Because here's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to make it the economy. They're going to flip the economy. They're going to switch it to a digital blockchain. The fiat currency is losing its value every day in this country. Gold and silver is not going to buy you out of this problem that's coming. Gold and silver, the general population is going to accept the blockchain currency. Gold and silver won't be accepted as payment at your supermarkets. There's still going to be supermarkets, of course there is. But they're going to want you on the blockchain to use them. But to be on the blockchain, there's going to be concessions. You're going to have to give what is yours away in order to be allowed on the blockchain. This is what people don't understand. So if you don't have enough family, enough friends, and I might add, if you're getting up there in age, how much of this can you do if your kids are not there to work through these problems with you? If your kids are off in a distant place, you better, I don't know what to tell you, because it's gonna be rough times. What I would say is people need to start considering if there's things that you haven't prepared for. You've only got about 3 years. 99% of it's going to be mental preparedness about what's coming and knowing that hardship and sacrifice is going to come to keep your freedom, to keep your sovereignty, to remain Yahweh's, and not to succumb to the ways and conform to the patterns of this world. You've only got about 3 years to prepare for this. This is going to be a bigger test than Agenda 21. Agenda 21 was just setting the footer for what is coming. Oh yeah, it is. But I mean, yeah, it's gonna be tough. I'm not saying I'm prepared for tough times. I'm not saying I'm prepared and that I want to go through it. I'm telling you, it is a blessing Yahweh has appointed us to live in, because these are going to be biblically significant years. I can tell you that. Now, if you want to get into what I believe, yeah, Wendy, but there's more of us, right? But they've got us all distracted with this ICE bull crap, you know. They want us hating each other. They want us hating each other. I am for strong borders. I am for very limited immigration, and it should be based upon what you can do for this country, not what this country can do for you. And I believe in strict borders, but let's be honest. They created this problem intentionally just to keep us distracted, just to keep us hating each other, just to keep us angry. I guarantee you, if we're going to sit here and we're going to be cheerleading on this whole ICE thing, all we're doing is eating the bait. We're eating the rat bait. We're eating the poison. You know, the average American can tell you the entire roster on their favorite football team, but all they know about politics is ICE, 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 Venezuela, and ISIS. That's like the three things I can tell you right now is ISIS bad, Venezuela bad, and ICE and Slava Ukraine. That's all people can compute. They have no clue what is coming to them. They go, oh, the Buffalo Bills, yay! And they're just totally inundated with the most meaningless junk that has no benefit to us, no gain to us. And but I want to refocus. The entire point of me doing this video is that we are broken and divided as families and communities. The people who care about each other the most are too far apart from each other to do anything to help each other. If you've got 2 or 3 people, you've got more than most people have. So if you don't have anybody, if you look around and you're over the age of, I'm going to say 50, and you don't have 2 or 3 people that says, hey, I got your back. We're going to keep what's ours. And it may cost you your life. They may come to your farm and they may say, move to the city or lose your head. Move to the digital blockchain. Accept the digital blockchain. Take your body implant so that you can buy, sell, and trade and receive your standardized payments, or we're just going to chop your head off. And that may be what it comes down to. But I would count that as joy. Because when the blood runs from my body and my soul leaves out, I ain't got nothing else to worry about. So if they want to do that, if that's the direction they want to push this, then so be it. I'm not going to give up. You know, so many people have pride and arrogance in this country. You know, they run around saying America's number one, but they keep caving and giving. The same people willingly ran around masking up. They ran around, they got shots for their jobs. We can't do that. This time around, we cannot do that. You know, I've seen 85% of America fail the test during COVID. Failed it. This time we've got to say no. And it's coming. You've got 3 years at best to prepare for this shift of powers. I mean, the way I see it is America may not even be America in 3 years. And you've got 3 years to prepare yourself. If you've got a big old fat 401k and you're about 60 years old, you're thinking, I'm just going to stay in the workforce for another 2 or 3 years, you are so clueless to what is coming on. You better get that money out. You better transfer that wealth to tangible, physical, valuable things. Bullets, firearms, medical supplies, salt, seeds, property. Own some property. You got $500,000 in the bank. Don't just go buy the most rugged property you can. Buy a property that has grass on it, that has water on it. something that can sustain life. You need to live on pasture land. You need to be a few miles away from a highway at least. Don't live right on a highway. Buy some land. Get your kids out there. Get your grandkids out there. Get them out of the city. That's what you need to be focusing on. Getting your grandkids out of the city. Getting your children out of the city. Come on home. I've got land. I've got a place for you. If you've got the resources, don't plan on retiring in 3 more years. Take the penalty. Okay, inflation is going up at a rate. I promise you, inflation is more like 15 to 20% a year. Just go to the store and look at something stupid. I was at Lowe's, and just a spigot, like a 12-inch spigot, frost-free spigot for a wall, what was $24 3 years ago is now $48. It's doubled in price in just 3 years. So we're more like about a 15 to 18% inflation per year right now. And it's not just, plumbing. It's all around. It's electrical. Go buy some Romex right now and look back at the price 3 years ago. So I know you're going to take a penalty. My point was you're going to take a penalty taking taking out your 401ks and your investments. You're going to take a penalty if it's early, but you need to do it now. And then they're still going to try to tax you out of your property. They're still going to do carbon taxes. They're still going to do climate change stuff. They're still going to say you've got to insulate your home. You've got to, put new windows in your home in order to meet all these energy efficient crap. I mean, just look, they tried to outlaw propane appliances and stuff. They try to, whatever, and then you could just look to Europe and say, okay, if Europe is doing this now, America's a couple years behind them. We're always just 2 to 3 years behind Europe. So my point being is that I want to reiterate this. You need to get out of the cities. You've got at best 3 years to get out of the cities. Now listen, I know my goal, I don't know if it's even feasible. Here's what my goal is. Okay, I don't care about the 49ers. I really don't. But anyways, who is I can't really read. I got the sun in my eyes. I think it's Angelica, Homestead with the Walls. Here's my goal, and I don't know if it's obtainable, but we just recently bought a 40-acre farm. My goal is to not owe a mortgage on it when all this goes down. The other thing is it's not going to matter when all this goes down because I'm going to tell them no. Whenever these banks that operate on a fractional banking system, this Ponzi scheme where they take your money and they invest it in bad investments and they only have pennies on the dollar, if that, of what is entrusted to them to hold, when they fail and the system wants to come take your farmland because their system failed, when the Fed fails, when the Federal Reserve fails, and the feds or whoever takes over for the feds wants to come take my farmland, I'm gonna tell them no. Do you have the wherewithal to tell them no? Do you have the courage to face the consequences of telling them no? Are your neighbors, here's the big question. Do you have the network to tell them no? This country is so screwed up because some idiot will hit an ICE agent with her car, impeding what they're... I don't agree with what ICE is doing to a T. I don't agree with allowing millions of people into this country, but I dang sure don't allowing them in there so that you can just flip the script and just polarize. So you allow them in, you appease one side of the politics, the left, by allowing them in, then you flip the script, and then you appease the conservatives by abusing people and rounding them up. I don't agree with that. But also, ICE has a legitimate job to do at this point. It's not their fault that these politicians have failed them so badly. So you don't run them over with your car, you don't block them, you don't impede them. First of all, if it's not your business, stay out of it. The Bible literally tells you and commands you to mind your own business. So I would start there. They do have a lot of legitimate stuff to be doing, ICE does. I don't agree with some of what they've done, but that doesn't allow me the right to go interfere with them, to hit them with my car. But my point being, all these idiots go out there and riot over that. We should be rioting over what is coming in the next few years. The fact that we're going to let it just slip up on us and just happen, that's the problem. These politicians, anybody who supports Agenda 2030 should be tarred and feathered. Anybody who is taking money from the World Economic Forum crowd, from Bill Gates, from Yuval Noah Harari, from Klaus Schwab, Peter Thiel. That's right, Peter Thiel. You know who's taking money from Peter Thiel, right? Go look into that guy. He's all about AI. He's all about all this crap. Anybody who supports building more data centers but wants you to put DEF in your diesel, anybody who wants you to put DEF in a diesel truck or a tractor or any other piece of equipment, that's diesel exhaust fluid for emissions. Anybody who wants you to put that garbage in your truck, which is nothing more than another petrochemical product, it's just nitrogen that's made from refining natural gas. Just another petro product for your vehicle. Yeah, anybody who supports that and also supports AI data centers is the problem. They're the problem. Because those AI data centers are nothing more than Big Brother. They're just saving me. They're logging me right now, and I don't care because I'm doing this for the greater good. They are logging me right now. They're categorizing me, my likeness, my face, my voice, my identity. They're logging me as a problem right now. They're storing data on me. They're creating you ever heard of Lavender software? Look into Lavender software. It's what Israel used to target dissenters in Palestine. They logged their social media and said, hey, these guys might be a problem. And then without even knowing if they're home or not knowing if their children or their wife or anybody else is in the adjacent apartment building, sent bombs in there based off of what AI told them was potential targets, based off of what people said online, social media, etc. And that could very well come to me for talking like this. And one day, and I don't care. Because people need to hear it. Look up Lavender software. You want to know scary? Drones. Look at these first-person drones and stuff in Ukraine and Russia. Imagine those are like just little Amazon drones, that you can buy for $1,500. Imagine what these people are ready to unleash upon people in 3 or 4 years. But yeah, I mean, I don't care. Yeah. And I wish I could read these comments better, but I got this. That's the other thing. I'm sitting here driving under a AI supervisor right now. I got an AI camera looking at me in my company vehicle right now. How much of this are we going to put up with? I promise you it ain't going to be for much longer. You know, as I talk to this camera, it says I'm distracted. You know, it's going off, recording me, building a case against me. I don't care. I really don't. But anyways, I mean, just to reiterate it though, man, we need to just get together as families. You know, pool resources. You know, good quality land that can sustain livestock is not cheap. Living in the mountains and stuff isn't even feasible anymore. There's nowhere. You used to, you know, 50 to 100 years ago, a man could disappear in the mountains, untraceable. It's not possible anymore. I would even venture to say that the mountains are getting more populated per, like you know, around me, the average size of land is probably 80 acres or more. The average plot of land, you know, between 40 and 80 acres is probably average. Maybe bigger, because there's a lot of bigger tracts of land. There's a lot of, you know, 40 acres, 10 acres, 5 acres too. But you get out in the mountains and it's in lots. It's, oh, how many lots do you own? Oh, I've got 6 lots. I've got 15. I've got 2. Guys. That's suburbia. Yeah, it may not be, you know, 4,000 square foot houses parked on it, but that is not escaping anything. The mountains are kind of void of resources. Yes, there's some game, there's some creeks and stuff with some fish. But if everybody ran to those mountains that has a lot or more out there, there's not going to be any game. There's not going to be any deer. There's not going to be any sustainability. There's not going to be any, you know, let's say you go out there with a good running vehicle, your vehicle is going to fall apart in the first year you live there at best. We drove out to the mountains to visit some friends and family, and we poked a hole in our, just like that. Just one little rock jumps up and pops a hole in the oil filter. That's how quickly you could go from an operating vehicle to a not operating vehicle. Then you're stuck on foot in the center of mountains. What you need to be on is good quality land. And what good quality land is going to offer you, you know, you need a good smokehouse. You need a good curing chamber for making preserved meats. You need to know how to jar things. You need to know how to grow a garden. Hey, and if you're going to grow a garden, first of all, check out Hardneck Farms on here. She's got a green thumb. I don't really have one. I can buy started plants and I can grow a decent garden. But I'll tell you this. When you really have to be sustainable, there ain't gonna be no greenhouses to go to buy your plants. If you don't know how to start seeds, and trust me, it's not just put it in a little pot and grow it. If you don't know how to start seeds, you better start learning. Because there's a learning curve with that. If you think oh, I own some land out there in the mountains. If things get tough, we'll go out there. It's too late. You ain't gonna just get tough all of a sudden. You ain't just gonna learn how to grow plants and have a successful crop. Relatively maintained roads. My definition of the mountains is raw land with like some dozer logging trails. And you know, the other thing to that goes, you need an older vehicle. These newer vehicles are not going to make it in the mountains. When you're driving over, you know, 6-8 inch chunks of shell and 2 foot deep ruts. Your modern vehicles, trucks, doesn't matter. They're not going to last out there. But the problem is, when it comes to the mountains and resources, the problem is those mountains are getting flooded with people already. Imagine when everybody wants to get out there. My thing is you need some quality pasture land. You know, I would say for every 5 people you need 10 acres of pasture, good pasture, and a water source, a good water source. Pond that doesn't go dry. You know, if you've ever experienced a serious drought, you know where probably you know like let's say in your area you go look at a pond and you had a major drought where lots of things dried up in the last year or two. You go look at that property, take you a fishing pole. They'll tell you if that pond goes dry. If it's got fish in it and you just went through a major drought, it don't go dry. And you know, water well's nice, but things can break on water wells. If it's a shallow well, I have a well on my property, an extra well on my property. I don't know how deep it is, but I'm thinking about seeing if I can put a hand pump on it. I'm sure for some reason they drilled a new well, but it may just not have been pumping enough water to supply a house, for modern activities. But if you could hand pump a 5-gallon bucket of water out of it, it would be a very valuable well. If you get a 5-gallon bucket of fresh water on demand without electricity, that'd be so valuable. You can water, some small animals, and you need to have small. That's the other thing I would say. You need to have some small critters like goat and sheep, and you need to. I'll tell you, there's a learning curve to raising them. Mostly you got to keep them rotated. You got to keep them moving on pasture, because if they sit in one area too long, they're going to get wormy. And then there's this whole genetic thing. Some of them are just going to get sick and die. Either they just get sick and die and you're done with them, or you cull them out, take them to an auction, get rid of them. You got to work your way in. You can't just go buy. You can't just at the last minute go get you a dozen sheep and say, okay, I'm a sheep farmer. You're going to starve to death if that's what you do. I like how at nighttime it wants to max itself out on bright. Oh, there we go. Sorry, my phone wants to max itself out on brightness at nighttime, but during the day, it wants to dim out. It's annoying. Don't do that. I don't know. I don't do what? Quick work on that. Oh, why not stream and drive? It's hands-free. Mostly. Touch my phone once in an hour. See, I've been on this live stream, and this camera hasn't really bothered me too much, but as soon as I go to eat, it reports me to the AI police. I'm not allowed to eat a boiled egg to drive. Ask me how much I care. But anyways, the number one key to this, though, is networking. You know, if things get really bad, people start trying to take what other people have. Here's something people are not considering. In order to keep what you got, feed you and your family, and maybe help some people if you're afforded that ability, is you're going to have 24-hour security. Somebody is always going to have to be awake. So that requires more bodies, more people. Do you think a 5-person family can sustain that? 2 people, 3 young kids? You think they can sustain 24-hour security, watching the livestock, watching the property, looking for people trying to sneak up on them? No. Could 2 5-person families sustain that? Yes. Could 3? Even more so. And if your neighbors aren't serious, the least you can do is drop some hints so that when things start getting serious, they go, hey, I remember you told me. Although in my experience during Agenda 21, I told people months ahead of time, hey, prepare yourself. Things are about to get real crazy. Didn't do any good. Half the people soon forgot. Before they were even calling it coronavirus or COVID, before that, I said, don't take the solution, man. Whatever they're going to offer you, don't take it. First of all, they didn't believe me anything was coming. They just flat out didn't. They just thought I was nuts. Second of all, I don't think they even had a clue what I meant by don't take the solution. I told them, you know, if I even say it on here, I don't know if I'll still get a channel strike, but I did in the past for talking about this stuff. But you know what the solution is. I said, don't do it. They're going to make things seem like it's really bad. They're going to say it's getting everybody. They're going to say it's 50%. Remember the charts in the beginning? Remember the graphs where they were saying it was like it was like 50% kill ratio at first. And then it was like a, 25%. And then it was a 10%. And then it turns out it was like less than 1%. Like the common bugs and stuff. told people. Nobody wanted to listen. I ought to I think I'm going to go get on Telegram and start saving a bunch of videos of the World Economic Forum talking about you own nothing and you'll be happy. And the useless eaters, and how what they'll do for the useless people is they'll just put them on video games and drugs, and put them on VR headsets and just pump them full of drugs, whatever that means. And then you know what the next agenda is 2050. They have the zero carbon agenda, or whatever, zero emissions agenda by 2050. You know what that means, right? In order to get there, you have to have a planet void of life. Hey, everything these people do is anti-life. Everything. You should look into, here's something you should look into, is carbon capture. If you look into carbon capture, it's going to blow your mind. So, if, what is the building blocks of life? Think about that. It's carbon. Everything is carbon based, right? So carbon capture is this deal, which there's several big multi-billion dollar companies working on doing this stuff. Bill Gates is funding them. But carbon capture is this. They say that if you take wood chips and they decompose, they make gases, methane gas, and alcohols, and, they break down, they decompose. And I would say that's a good thing. That is a natural process Yahweh created. Hey, and you should be getting wood chips and you should be composting them on your farm, because it's going to bring more life to your farm. It's going to bring more vigorance to your farm. It's going to bring more sustainability to your farm. You can take a sandy patch of soil, compost some wood chips in it, and have the best grass in the county. But they say that wood chips breaking down, or grass clippings, or leaves, and all these things are bad for the environment, right? Bad. So what we got to do is we got to capture these things. So they're creating these processes where they take these chemicals and polymers and these glues, and they basically take refuse, and instead of turning those wood chips back to the dirt that they came from and releasing the carbon back into the atmosphere that those trees pulled out of the atmosphere in order to grow those big, beautiful branches, and instead of letting that stuff go back into the atmosphere to grow more trees, to grow more grass, to feed more animals, to keep the cycle of life going on this planet, what they want to do is they want to capture those so that they can't decompose. They want to see, basically, imagine you take a tree branch and you pour it in epoxy. That tree branch will no longer break down and make its way back into the earth to grow trees to feed the deer, grass to feed the cattle, to feed the bison. It's no longer part of the equation. How long can you strip the carbon from this planet before you do irrefutable damage? It used to be a little common sense even among the climate change people. They'd say, well, we need to quit destroying the rainforest. They would say common sense stuff. We need to quit destroying the rainforest. We need to quit destroying the native grasslands. And that made sense. That made sense. Like, yeah, the natural rainforest ecosystems shouldn't be destroyed, and the natural prairies shouldn't be destroyed either. As much as we can help, we should have very healthy patches of them. I mean, we do need some agriculture to sustain human life, but I might add, most people, and I say that because I know there's somebody in here that has reasons they can't eat meat, but most people thrive on meat. To grow ruminants, we don't need crops. We don't need a drop of corn. We don't need a drop of soybeans to grow ruminant animals. So therefore, we are sustainable on native grasslands. But anyways, I digress. To the point being, these people are anti-life. Just look at carbon capture. It proves they are anti-life. It's crazy. I know that. And as soon as you start talking about truthful stuff, important things, they literally send these bots at you. These comments that you guys are fighting and having to remove are just nothing more than AI bots designed to impede and interfere with people communicating about truth. That's all that bull crap is. But anyways, once again, I'm telling you, if you've got grandkids living in the city, your number one goal needs to be getting them out. These cities are no good for families. They promise all these things. They promise higher wages. They promise more housing, more apartments. They promise more entertainment. They promise all these things. And yet, despite the higher wages, you're still broke. You're not thriving. You're bored. You got a billion things to do and you're still stuck in your phone. Let's be honest. The cities are not that entertaining. Once in a great while, you go to the city and you walk through Bass Pro and you look at the fish tank, and once in a great while you go do something like, never been to Top Golf, but I've always wanted to do something like that. Once in a while, it's fun. But that's what it is. It's fun on occasion. When you live there, you never do those things. They promise all this stuff, and yet you're starving for satisfaction. Get out of the city. Well, I wish we was all neighbors too, because unfortunately, even most people in the country don't. A lot of people in the country, I don't know if most. I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about stuff because they don't want people to think they're kind of crazy or something. I'm not afraid of it. I've been right so many times. I've been wrong a couple times. I've thought things were going to be a little worse at different times. I'm not going to lie. I'm no prophet. I just look at things and tend to be right most of the time. So I think think that's for a lot of people, maybe they don't have family that they can get to move near them. Maybe their kids are just consumed with careers and they don't want to hear it. And it's just not going to happen. You need to reach out to your neighbors. I'm sure you got neighbors that you're friendly with, but they don't know how serious you are about saying no whenever the time comes. Maybe they feel the same way, but they feel like there's nobody there that would support them and help them. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what people need to start doing here over the next couple of years, is reaching out to their neighbors. Also, hey, there's this thing coming up here in a few years. Here's what I'm gonna. We are, as a country, we are in the same place Rome was when they collapsed. Rome had inflated their dollar. They had clipped all of the precious metal out of their coins and replaced it with cheap metals. So the coins literally started off with a value because there was rare metals that they were made out of, and then replaced that metal with common metals. Nowadays we call it fiat money. We call it fiat currency because the only value the US dollar has is the fact that it is the standard currency. That's the only value it has, that it has people entrusting it as to be good. But we have countries right now that are trying to get together and create the BRICS dollar, basically, the BRICS system, to replace the dollar. We have Trump talking about using Bitcoin or something like Bitcoin. Why are they talking about these things? They're talking about these things because the dollar is failing, it is collapsed, it is way inflated. They have printed money. We're $40 trillion in debt. We have ballooned so quickly, it will not sustain. And I'm telling you, gold and silver is not going to be what they roll this into. Now, honestly, if you come to me saying, hey, I need some bullocks for my weapon, I have some silver, I'm going to say, do you have any salt? Do you have any fat? That's what I'm going to ask. Do you have any fat? Do you have any salt? Do you have any antibiotics? I don't want your silver. I don't want your gold. You know what silver and gold would be good for? Casting into bullets. I don't want it. So that's what's going to happen. Our dollar is going to collapse. They're going to try to negotiate you out of your properties. They're going to try to use force, disaster, famine, whatever they can to collect your resources, to own you. Wendy, I think all administrations are guilty. I really do. I just don't think there's any of them that are, since I've been alive. I think honestly, I think JFK was the last one who tried to stop the great evil that was coming. and it didn't last very long. Yeah, I mean, eminent domain. It's, think about this. Just think about what we've already let the governments get away with. Like, I just drove down that turnpike. Whenever they started turnpikes in Oklahoma, they said these will be free in X amount of years. And that's done surpassed that 2 or 3 times over when they said these highways would be paid for by the tolls and then made to be free. We let private, corporate, that's what, okay, that's what I'm going to, that is a very, this is going to transition perfectly into why I think all administrations are bad and none are innocent, none are really trying to, work for the American people. The turnpikes, the Turnpike Authority is a great example of that because they are a private investment group who has the backing of the state governments to prevent you from registering your vehicles if you don't pay that private company their tolls. So you're paying a tax to the state to register your vehicle, and the state is saying, I'm not going to collect your tax to register this vehicle until you pay this private institution. Guys, what the hell is wrong with us? Tar and feathers. Tar and feathers. How many times do you got to tell people this? This is not right. Tar and feathers. We did this before over a 2-cent tax on tea. Now it costs you $20 to drive to the damn city because they've got turnpikes ran by private institutions backed by the state government. Tar and feathers. Just saying. So, if we're going to stop any of this, we're going to need a whole lot more people involved, because it's going to get a lot more serious than a damn turnpike. And those turnpikes will be weapons. Think about it. Have you ever thought about this? You can't turn around for 40 miles on a turnpike because there's no damn turnarounds. You know what those are? Bottlenecks. You know what bottlenecks are for? Checkpoints. Military checkpoints. That's what those turnpikes are. How are you going to get to and from the city when you've only got one highway getting you there? And you got to pay to use it. Oh, I can go down the back roads. Yeah. Take you 3 hours to get there. Twice the fuel. Not to mention, the infrastructure is relatively weak on those roads. So the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, that's something that a lot of people don't know about. They actually have a plan for martial law. You know, they have a contingency plan for martial law, and those turnpikes are very strategic. They're strategically placed. And might I add you, remember when Saddam Hussein packed all those civilians in that convoy of military vehicles, and Bush Sr. bombed the hell out of them anyways. That's what you are, is a sitting duck on these turnpikes whenever they decide to shut them down with you on them, or to monitor who's coming and going. But anyways, the point here is government like we have right now, we have no good administration. J.D. Vance was bought off by Palantir and God knows who else. Trump is paid for by the false state of Israel, and I say that very seriously. Corruption runs so deep, it's unbearable. But, you know, like I said in the beginning of this, the best you can do is bring your families together, bring your friends together that care about it, that aren't afraid to acknowledge the truth. If they just won't hear it, then it is what it is. Palantir is very dangerous. They ain't on our side. I gotta get it out there, please. Perception again. Palantir's not your friend just because you like the charisma of a certain politician and he's funded by them. Doesn't make them our friend. J.D. Vance is not our friend. He actually has like 3 different names. So that right there is a big red flag to me. Also, he's not a Christian because he's married to a Indian Hindu wife who does not recognize Yahweh, and he is unequally yoked with his spouse, and he is in direct violation of what God has called him, what Yahweh has called him to do if he's a Christian. You must be equally yoked in your marriage. J.D. Vance is no good. I don't know how to say it any more clear than that. Anyways, yeah, Palantir is extremely dangerous. The guy is, first of all, Peter Thiel, I would never take money from a multi-billionaire homosexual who is obsessed with artificial intelligence. You think I would, if I actually cared about this country and I wanted to do the best I could for this country, you think that's who I would take money from and be beholden to? No. And he's been seen at, what do they call those, CPACs and stuff? He's been there doing his little gay conservative speeches. And hey, you want to watch somebody who makes a lot of sense? Bryce Mitchell. UFC fighter Bryce Mitchell, he does a podcast called Ark Insanity. Go watch the last few episodes. I'm going to say it like he says it. They gayed out the conservative party. Gayed it out. Gayed out. Ruined it. Hello. I've just been on a little rant over the last hour, a little more, about preparing for Agenda 2030 and how we need to bring families back together. We need to quit having our families distributed across multiple states and hours apart, even if you are in the same state. pool your resources, own a piece of property with grass and water and ruminant animals, have it free and clear from the government. Start learning how to start seeds. There's a learning curve to starting seeds and growing healthy plants. You can't just go do it the first year you try. It's not going to work. You might get some sort of a success rate, but it's not going to feed families. You're not going to learn how to feed a family from a garden in just 1 year. It's not going to work. Even the best farmers can have really poor years, or even the best gardeners can have poor years. But my main takeaway with bringing up Agenda 2030 is get your families back together. You have limited time to do it. You have limited time. You're not a gay conservative. That's an oxymoron. And you're not a Christian if you're gay. You must deny your flesh to be a Christian. You must cut off your heart that's causing you to sin. You must be born again in Christ. And so you will still sin. You may never lose your eye for the same sex, but you must deny it. You must not eat of that fruit. Because if you do, knowing it's an abomination before Yahweh, then you're not a Christian. It's okay to have the thought of wanting to do something, but you must reproach yourself. You must say, no. You must say no. You must deny it. And then if you do sin, you must repent to Christ. You must come before Yahweh in confidence, in your own confidence with Him. Repent for it. I mean, there's all kinds of sins, though. There's anger. If I act out in anger, I have to answer to that before Yahweh. I have to say, I have sinned, and I'm sorry, I have failed you. But to live that lifestyle, to just say, if I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go around and be angry with everybody, and there's a big difference. Okay, it's much easier to deny yourself a sexual lust than it is to sinful emotions. Things that are just much harder to prevent. And we're never going to be perfect, but to just say, well, I'm gay, so it is what it is. He'll accept me or he won't. That's not acceptable. No, I didn't say that at all. What I'm saying is, you must deny it. You cannot sit here and boast that you're a gay conservative Christian. It doesn't make sense. If I said, yeah, I reacted in anger and I'm proud about it, and it is what it is, and I'm an angry Christian. No. So let me ask you this, if you're still in here. if you're a gay Christian, what do you think about churches that put 6-colored flag on their doorstep, who paint their porch steps with 6 colors called the pride flag and the trans flags and all that, and knowing full well that there's 7 colors in the rainbow. You know why there's 7 colors in the rainbow? Because it's the number of completion. You know why there's 6 colors in the pride flag? 666. Huh. Weird. It's like they're impersonating Yahweh and creating direct blasphemy to Yahweh. This is really important. Man, and nothing good comes from that whole gay pride stuff, man. First of all, pride is one of the deadly sins. So, and let's be honest, I think it's out of biblical context to say a sin is a sin. There are worse sins. There are worse sins. Murder, abortion, things like that are not going to be counted equally with somebody who chose some words with somebody they shouldn't have. You're going to be held to account for that. But let's be honest. If you was out there and had multiple abortions, you can be forgiven, but God's still going to have an accountants for it. Yeah, Ice murdered a woman. You know, did he need to shoot her? I don't think so. But she put herself in a stupid position. I don't agree with what Ice is doing for the most part. But good grief, you gotta look at that and say, wow, what an idiot. Who drives towards a cop with a firearm? But my main takeaway from it is what a distraction from what's really at hand. Just a big distraction from what's going on. Ice this, ice that, my college football team. I've never talked about college sports at all on my YouTube channel. And I have YouTube telling me, oh, big things are happening in college football. You should make content about college football. No, I'm not going to. Probably if they recommend it and I made a video, probably get a million views, make a few dollars, you know, get millions of views on some shorts or some stupid stuff. But no, I don't care. Way too much important stuff at hand right now. Yeah, this whole Ice thing, it's nothing but a big stupid distraction. You know, and like I said earlier about the turnpikes and how the state is backing private companies' collections on private companies' money, etc. Tar and feathers. When it comes to this problem with immigration, you know who should be drug out in the streets and beaten and pepper sprayed and ran over with cars and shot? The people who let 20 million illegal immigrants in this country. They're the ones who should be deported. They should be pepper sprayed in the eyes and deported. Deported to Guantanamo Bay. Like the movie Little Nicky, where their punishment in hell was pineapples up the rectum. Hitler got the biggest pineapple. Well, it's like maybe we should put these politicians on Epstein Island, and daily they should get a pineapple in the rectum, and according to their ill intent and their doings, might be a pineapple this big, a little one. $20 million isn't realistic. They sent caravans that had hundreds of thousands at a time with money cards. So people were paying them thousands of dollars to make their trip. When I'm in central Oklahoma and I see people, Haitians and Africans and Argentinians and all these different Guatemalans and stuff walking down the highways after being dropped off at a truck stop by a travel bus full of them, and just randomly walking off down the highways towards the nearest towns, working on a cat scale, and village tour bus pulls up next to you and 30 immigrants get off of it and the bus leaves and they don't get back on the bus. Nothing to see here. Just your local injection of illegal immigrants. Now, like I said though, just running around chasing them down, pepper spraying them in the eyes, is that going to fix anything down? No, it's just a big distraction. They can't catch them all. It's just a joke to think that they're doing any good. And quite honestly, there's a bunch of them that are good people. Not all of them. There's a lot of bad people. I believe in a tight border. Damage is done. Trying to catch a few of them now ain't doing, it ain't gonna stop anything. I wish it would. Wish it would help. Well, big old bump. I am at my work destination for the day. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'm gonna hop off here. Just think about that. Get your families back together. Start talking to them, telling them, hey, I think if we pull our resources and our manpower and our collective minds and really build a strong business plan and work on each other's strengths over the next couple of years, I think maybe we can own our land outright, and we can maybe approach this with a simpler way of life instead of being just so inundated with brunt force trauma, essentially, constantly. Maybe we can be in a position to take care of ourselves. Who knows? Maybe it'll be drastically worse than I could ever imagine. Maybe it'll be pretty serious, but softer than I could imagine. Hopefully the latter. But you guys have a good day. Thanks.